Hi, I'm Julie Jag. I'm a reporter for the Salt Lake Tribune, and thanks for joining us for this Trib Talk. Today, our topic is something that I'm very excited about, and I know our guests are excited about, and hopefully you are as well, which is the 2021 ski season. But we're going to be talking about how it's going to be so different this year because of COVID-19 and what differences the visitors especially will see, as well as just what changes the resorts are going to be making. So my guests today are Anelise Bergin. She's the Director of Communications at Ski Utah. And Shawn Stinson, he's the Director of Communications and Media at Visit Salt Lake. So thank you both for being here on this Bluebird Day, taking a day off from skiing to come visit. It's great. Yes. So we're now almost 2 weeks into the season because Brighton opened on the 19th and Brian Head and Park City opened on the 20th. And by the start of next week, I think all but 5 of our 15 resorts are expected to be open. So I wanted to start by talking about how big of a deal is it that the resorts are going to be able to open, especially after they had to close down in March because of the outbreaks across the nation of coronavirus, but also especially in ski towns. And just what kind of an effort did it take to get them going this winter? So I was thinking maybe, Anelise, you could kick us off a little bit with that.
Sure. Well, I think it probably goes without saying for anyone that has skied at all, it's a really big deal. Obviously, not only did the closures affect our ski resorts, but it really has a ripple effect through our entire community because all of Utah is interwoven with the ski industry here. And so having them close early wasn't just a big blow to ski resorts. It was a huge blow to our towns. It was a blow to our hotels and restaurants. And obviously that was a hard time in March, but they have been planning how to reopen since they closed. So they really started closing down. It was March 14th and 15th was when pretty much all 15 of Utah resorts decided to make the very smart decision to close down. And they started planning how to reopen on March 16th. So they did not take a single beat to start figuring out how do we get back to skiing and how do we do it safely and how do we make sure that we can rehire everybody, take care of our employees, get our ski towns back. And so I'm just so impressed with the way that they've done it. And what's really unique to Utah is how much they have collaborated behind the scenes. Of course, from an outsider's point of view, a lot of them are competitors in a way, but behind the scenes here in Utah and at Ski Utah specifically with all 15 resorts, spend a lot of time collaborating and working together and being on the same page so that when you visit one Ski Utah resort, honestly, you're probably going to have a very similar experience as far as safety and protocols at another resort that isn't even owned by the same parent company because they have been collaborating together. So we're really excited to see them back. And like we all know, it's going to be different this year. But I think we all agree that it's worth it to be back skiing and make those small accommodations.
Yeah, I think I saw something on the Alta Twitter feed before they opened saying, congratulations to our neighbors to the west on their opening. And then somebody was like, well, neighbors, I thought they were rivals. And they're like, no, we're all in this together. So
a little bit of both,
yeah, a little bit, you got to have friendly rivalry, right?
Exactly. But they really are, especially behind the scenes, so supportive of each other. And we know that a rising or a high tide rises all ships, or however they say it. And that is the definition of how Utah's ski resorts work together.
Yeah, and I know that they've been working really hard because they don't want to have a season. They don't want to have their season shut down any more than we want to have it shut down. It's not good business for them as far as people trusting them, and also just not good business because nobody will be coming. You have all the backcountry skiing, but none of the groomed and all the things that we love about going to the ski resorts. So, yeah. So, Shawn, you said you'd been up there a couple of times already, which I'm very envious about. But can you tell me some of the differences that you've seen this season? What are the main ones that you feel like have really stuck out to you?
I'd say the resorts are really doing everything they can to stay safe, to stay open. They are like Anelise mentioned, they've worked together. They worked all summer. A lot of them have summer operations, so they were able to learn through that. They were also able to learn through the Southern Hemisphere resorts. What I took away was, their true interest and concern for spacing, for social distancing, including the parking at Alta. I mean, I was pulling in, and the parking attendant had a bamboo Halloween stick, and I wasn't sure. And of course, they're spacing the cars, which makes sense when you get out. The lift lines, they have ghost lines, so spacing in between the lines as you're going forward. They're not requiring or even asking everyone to maximize the chairlift capacity. You can ride with family members. And what's also nice is the skiers and snowboarders themselves. Everyone is just thrilled and psyched to be out there. So they're following the protocols. Everyone's wearing a face mask in the lift lines, on the lifts, anytime they're indoors. And that's something that we're all still getting used to. And, God forbid when it starts dumping and the fogging up issue happens. But, that is a small price to pay. But like Anelise said, the resorts are doing everything in their powers to make it safe for their employees, their guests, and the community as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, you mentioned, everybody's excited to be out there. Do you feel like people will kind of keep that up as we get further into the season and get a little, it's the newness wears off a little bit? And
I personally do. I think they realized just how uncomfortable it was closing the season down early last year, losing the last 25% of the year. And I think people understand what it is going to take to stay open. And, if any year, this is the year to be patient, be kind, and be thankful. And I truly feel that both locals and visitors alike are going to adopt that and have.
Yeah. Patience is definitely the word of the season. If you bring anything, it's your patience, right? Yeah. Don't bring a whole lot else besides your mask and your gear, but bring your patience. So, some of the things I think we should probably address is just some of the main changes that people are going to see. And I've written about this several times, and I know that Ski Utah has quite a bit about this up on their site as well, but just to kind of give people an idea of what they're going into if they don't know already. So the first thing is ticket reservations are pretty much a must at almost every resort, right? Anelise, there's a couple that are allowing, I know Alta's allowing them up, and some of the smaller ones.
Yeah, it is a variety of how they're doing it. It's pretty interesting. And so, yeah, you referenced this, but if you go to skiutah.com/COVID-19, there's actually a handy little table that very quickly summarizes who is requiring reservations for passes, who's requiring reservations for tickets, how their parking works, and then a link to more details to that specific resort, because along with practicing patience and kindness this winter, I would say plan ahead. That is a big deal. And so even if reservations aren't necessarily required, I would still highly recommend to plan ahead and at least purchase your lift ticket in advance. Almost every single resort is offering advanced lift ticket purchase, and a lot of them will not be selling walk-up tickets day of. So you can't just drive up at 9 o'clock in the morning, walk up to a Deer Valley ticket window and buy a ticket. It just won't be the same this season. And so plan ahead, definitely check those links on skiutah.com so you know what that specific resort's changes are with their passes. Park City Mountain is the mountain that is requiring their pass holders to make reservations as well. The reservation system works great. It works really well with all the pass holders. You can log in, you can prioritize your days, and then you can also choose days the week of. They don't anticipate really capping very often because they honestly think that it's only a few major holidays that's going to happen. And then everyone's doing it a little bit differently. Some just aren't selling walk-up tickets. Snowbird is mitigating it with their parking reservations. So just think ahead, look ahead, be kind and be patient. But most days, people will be able to ski the day that they want to ski. You just have to think a little bit more ahead. And once again, which I have done before, I will put in the plug for some weekday skiing because like, I mean, a lot of people are still working from home right now, and a lot of people have a more flexible schedule than they've ever had. If there was ever a time to get in a weekday ski day, this is the winter, because it's going to be really quiet. It will be a lot easier for parking and ticket reservations, and you can probably get away with just answering a few emails on the left.
Find that Wi-Fi, right? The little pockets. Yeah, I should clarify. When I said reservations, I meant for walk-up tickets. Most places, pass holders will be able to come whenever they want to. Park City is requiring reservations for pass holders, and Snowbird is requiring reservations for parking. So that would also apply to pass holders. But most of the other places, if you want to go, you should probably buy online, and you can do that. I mean, you can do that even the day of or as you get up there, but you'll probably just have to do it on your phone. Some places do have walk-up windows, but even they are discouraging people from using them. So another thing is to bring, don't plan on bringing cash if you plan on buying something. Most of the places have gone cashless. So, you need a card or your Apple Pay or however you want to do it. And then lift lines, I think, is one of the things we should talk about, which is that everybody's doing it a little bit differently. Some people are letting you police yourselves. Others have said that they'll kind of monitor them. But basically, you have to stay, they'll have these ghost lines, which are, can you talk about them a little bit since you've seen them? Shawn, just what a ghost line is?
In the lift maze, usually there's 6 or 8 lines wide where people line up next to one another. Basically, they're just closing off every other lift line. They're a little narrower just by nature, but yes, so every other lift line as you move forward in the queue is closed off. So it's pretty simple. It works great. The people in front of you between, boards or skis, obviously, they're feeling that's easily 6 feet of distance. So the lift lines will look a little longer or bigger, but they move just as quickly as they did in previous years. It's just this social distancing or ski distancing that is being required this year. So
I like that. We'll change it up a little bit. We'll call it ski distancing. Yeah. You don't want to be next to anybody on the slopes anyway. What's that, Anelise?
On the slopes and in line anyway, because no one wants you stomping on their skis, and no one wants you coming within even 10 feet when you're skiing by each other.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly. Yeah. So just, stay away. That's why we're all out there anyway, to get a little bit of fresh air and a little bit of space. But yeah, and then in the trams and the gondolas, is it handled a little bit different, Anelise? I feel like some of them are.
Yeah. So Snowbird's tram is running at about 25% capacity, I believe is what it is. They're doing 25 people per tram, which is what they did all summer. And if you've been in the Snowbird tram, that is an ample amount of space compared to what you would normally have. They have the windows open, and then they have a great little kind of plexiglass thing for their tram operator. So the capacity that they're running at, that is really a great mitigation tactic. And then with gondolas, they are loading by families and households, and anyone that says, hey, I'm not comfortable riding with these people or with this, or, in a smaller group, can just say, and they'll have a gondola to themselves. So there's never going to be a point where, a Lyft employee forces you to get on a Lyft gondola with someone that is not in your household and that you don't want to ride with. And I know from my coworkers' experiences over the weekend at various resorts, especially with gondolas, that it wasn't an issue at all, that they were loading by household, and anyone that said, I want to ride alone could ride alone. And so great if you can pack it in with people that you live with to make it a little easier. But if not, you can ride by yourself, or they'll spread you out on a lift further apart as well.
Yeah, and we were talking about that a little bit before we went live, is that it seems like most people are really you're not feeling that pressure to crowd up or to, fill up the lift. Everybody's pretty much respecting that. So that's nice. And also, most of the studies have shown either way, I guess, that a lift on the lift is not a high probability of catching COVID there anyway, because of the airflow and just the spacing, nobody facing each other. So
we're very lucky to have such an outdoor oriented activity.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
There's so many ways to go skiing that really you can be in a very low risk situation. So, we actually spoke the other week with Dr. Swaminathan from the University of Utah Health. He said, of course, nothing is risk-free, nothing, unless you just lock yourself in your basement. But who wants to do that when we have the mountains right here?
Right.
So we're really lucky that we have many ways to go 10 to 15 to 20 feet apart is really how far apart you normally are from other skiers on the slopes. We're lucky that it's such a great, mostly risk activity.
Yeah. Well, so let's go that's, I feel like the probably area, beside the actual slope and actually when you're coming down, the lift lines are probably, and the lifts are probably the places you're least likely to come across COVID. But one of the higher risk areas is lodges. And most of the resorts have done quite a bit to change that. And Shawn, is that something you want to talk about, or should we give that?
I can touch upon that, at least for the 4 Cottonwood resorts, and I think this goes across the board for all of Utah's resorts. But they are limiting in the dining and beverage options. Simply put, a lot of the tables are going to reservation or being seated by a host rather than simply walking into the cafeteria. A lot like a typical restaurant, they're diminishing the number of seats available. You're going to see a lot more grab and go options and opportunities by the resorts themselves. I saw Utah Foods at the base of Alta has a food truck or food trailer. It's awesome. I think a lot of people have referred to this season as kind of going back to old school, where you'll be doing a little more chairlift dining, chatting with friends, sitting on the side of the lift, throwing a sandwich in your pocket or going back to your car maybe to grab a bite. And I think the resorts are good with that. Obviously, they have food and beverage operations, but again, it's what it's going to take to stay safe and stay open. And again, a lot of it is, to steal a phrase from our friends at the Utah Avalanche Center, know before you go. Each resort has their policies and their protocols spelled out on their websites. And I mean, they have everything listed, from lessons to food and beverage operations to lift ticket sales or reservations necessary. Again, know before you go. That's going to be the key phrase of the year. It really is. But, if you want to eat, you can. There are plenty of opportunities there as well.
And there's even like some fun things going on. Honestly, obviously a lot of us want to avoid being in any sort of crowded lodge. And so they're bringing on more food trucks. Powder Mountain is doing this new food truck that is basically going to be a pop-up that you have to find on the mountain. It's going to be in a different spot all the time with just snacks and drinks. So honestly, I think we'll see some of that stuff stick around, get a little bit more creative with food and beverage, because no one wants to sit in line anyway in a lodge waiting to eat, and they want to get back out and ski the greatest snow on earth. So I think some of the stuff that people are doing, sure, it's going to be different, and you might have to eat a sandwich on the lift or do it at back of your car, but I love some of the fun, different food and drink options. So I'll be certainly touring around to all the new food trucks.
I know that may become the it place to dine, right? In the Wasatch Front, you just we're not going to the fancy restaurant because they're all closed. You have to take out, but we can go up to the food truck at the base of the mountain. So
old school.
Exactly. Well, one of the concerns I have, I guess, regarding that, though, is that, lodges are places to eat, but they're also places where people go to get warm. And I know there's some creative ideas being bantied about, but I guess my concern is, on those really cold days, you got your cold, powder day that everybody's going to want to be up there, especially if it's on a weekend. What should people expect, or kind of how is that going to work? Because people aren't going to be able to cram into the lodges like they used to take that break in the middle of the day.
Again, I'd say know before you go. Know the weather report. Know what's going to happen if you're skiing with children, which I hope everyone does. Take advantage of the 5th and 6th grade passport program, by the way.
It's still out there. It's still going. Yeah.
And you know, make sure they're warm. Make sure they have the proper attire, the clothing. Take breaks, whether it's in the trees or even back at your vehicle. You know, obviously, check at the resorts and their lodges, and there are areas that they are welcoming people. You know, restrooms, they're even going to have more portable restrooms out at many of the resorts. So, like I said, or everyone has said, the resorts are doing everything in their powers to make this season not only successful, but fun, and hope that everyone gets out.
Yeah, I think I saw, it was on that media day, Anelise, and I can't remember who was calling them the executive porta potties, which I thought was a nice name for them. But they look, you know, they're pretty posh. They're like, you know, the ones with actual, they're not just the plastic ones that you'd see.
Snow Basin is doing that. And I think it's, you know, I would say that Shawn has a good point. It's the know before you go. Think about the weather, really look at the weather and make a decision of, is this the right day for my family? You know, if it's 0 degrees and snowing really hard and you have a couple of really little ones and you know you're gonna have to park far away, maybe it's just not the best day this season, because maybe it's just not gonna be as easy to warm those little fingers up. But a lot of the lodges are expanding in different ways. They're even just adding on things. I mean, more than like the executive bathrooms at Snow Basin, which is very Snow Basin with their bathrooms. But they're adding on extra little lodges or yurts or igloos or things like that to try to make more options for people to get inside when they need to. But be prepared to need to go back to your car. I mean, you know, you stock up with a nice cooler full of warm stuff, maybe fill up a couple of nice mugs with warm liquids, and be prepared that you might need to go back to your car to warm up if you want to avoid a lodge in the middle of the day, or if you think it's a busy Saturday or a holiday and you anticipate that lodge getting crowded. Think a bit ahead about the weather, bundle up, and you might want to go back to your car some days instead of choosing the lodge.
Yeah. And also, you know, don't eat during prime times. Eat early or eat a little later. Start early, end early, or vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should all clean out our cars so that, you know, leave some good blankets and whatnot in there, but just so that we have a nice place to, I can't remember which resort it was, but one of them was just like, okay, it's going to be your locker room. It's going to be your lunch spot. It's going to be the bar, you know, whatever. That's where it's going to be. And then you can go back onto the hill. So, yeah. Well, the big thing I think is getting up to the resorts this year with more, that's something I'd like to talk about, is just the ski bus, how often it'll run. And then some of the resorts are having more spacing and parking so that they can kind of control a little bit better the crowds on the mountain. And then, as we talked about, some are requiring reservations as well. Solitude is still asking paid parking, but allowing for carpools. And then, as we said, Snowbird is the one that's asking for reservations. Do either of you have a good idea of how the ski bus is running this year?
From what I understand, they will run at 20% or 20 people per ski bus. And they have added some buses to the routes, at least up Big and Little Cottonwood. And, you know, it goes in line with Snowbird's Operation Stay Safe. By limiting the parking, that will then limit the number of skiers on the mountain. And that is also the case with UTA's ski bus service. But again, stay safe, stay distanced. UTA, they will have natural air conditioning in their buses, just like the tram at Snowbird and elsewhere, with the windows down or front and back, not all of them. But they will work to fill that. And again, there are so many great websites out there that will show not only when the buses are running, but where the optimal place to park at the park and ride lots. Everyone wants to be at the mouth of the canyons, but with the diminished UTA service, not service, but seats, you know, you may want to go a little further out in the park and ride lots to get on those. But again, there are so many websites out there that have that information. Brighton, for instance, has a webcam pointed directly at their parking lot now, just so people have a general idea of what parking is like that day that they are going up.
Yeah. And I'll also say that a lot of these resorts, I think on those weekdays is a great time to go up because the parking isn't going to be as much of an issue, and non-holiday type things. And I'll put in a plug for the little guys. If you've never been down to Bryan Head or Eagle Point or up to Cherry Peak or Beaver Mountain, now is the year to check it out. Like they're small and they're not that busy and they're not going to probably run out of parking, and they're really worth seeing. And like Shawn said, you can see them on the Ski Utah passport, because that gets you into all 15 resorts, or the Yeti pass does too. So it's a fun year that if you're like, you know what, we're probably only going to ski maybe 5 to 10 days with the family, maybe look into one of those passes and think about seeing them all and checking out the little guys too.
Well, I want to get back to the parking, but I do want to go off of that a little bit, Anelise. I was curious, I don't know, do you know, are those passes available throughout the season, or is there a deadline? And do you know that for most of the passes? Because it seems like this year passes is really the way to go, especially as we were talking about, if things get cold, it's a lot easier to just, pull the plug and say, I'm going home, than if you have a pass, than if you're paid for the whole day.
Yeah, a pass is probably the way to go for the most part this season, or advanced lift ticket reservation. If you know what days you want to ski and you're just going to ski a few days, by all means, just get those days in advance reserved. But there's a lot of great pass options. Some of them do end their sales. You have to check with each resort and each pass because not all of them are on sale all year. The Ski Utah Passport, which is good for 5th and 6th graders, is you can buy that anytime during the year, and it's $45, and 5th graders ski 3 days at each of the 15 resorts, and 6th graders ski 1 day at each of the 15 resorts. So that's for sale all year. The Yeti Pass, which is kind of our adult version of the passport, gets you 1 day at each. But we do cap the sales on that, and I think we're already halfway through those sales. So you can check out those passes at skiutah.com. But each resort stops selling season passes at a certain point in time, or ups their prices at a certain point in time. And so if you're going to be a regular skier this year, a pass is the way to go for sure.
Yeah, that's the way it seems like. It seems like that's going to make things most flexible, which is the key this year, is to stay flexible. Well, I want to go back to how to get up there, the transportation. One of the things I wanted to mention is I believe that UTA is actually sending out alerts, or somehow, and correct me if I'm wrong because I definitely could be, somehow letting people know when buses are going to be full at a certain parking lot. So if it's a weekend and you're trying to get on at 8 o'clock, check their site, because I believe that they're doing updates there. Also, many of the resorts are doing updates I noticed on Twitter, where it's not through their main site, but they have like the same name, such as I'm trying to think what I had, maybe Brighton. It was Brighton Alerts or something like that. And so then just kind of check that, because it seems like they update those quite often, and that way you'll know before you even load into the car whether it's looking like you're going to get a spot. The one that I saw up at, what do I say? I guess I want to say Alta. I've been bringing them up a lot, so I apologize. But that most of the time it looked like on the weekends at 10 o'clock, 10:30, you couldn't park, but by 1:30, you could come up again. So just, keep that in mind, that you either need to go early or just enjoy these days. I mean, the afternoon skiing is amazing anyway. So just do that. That would be my suggestion. Let's see here. What else did I want to have you hit upon? And then how has the reservations started? Let's see here. Oh, Snowboard they opened yesterday, right? Do you have any idea, Anelise, how things went for them yesterday with the reservation system?
I haven't actually heard from them. I don't know if Shawn did, but I know that their parking reservation system is really well thought out, and it's all, their app and the way that they integrated that with real-time parking availability. I don't think they could have done it any better. Obviously it's a little harder. Obviously none of us want to have to think ahead and reserve a spot and everything like that. But the way that they did it, I don't know that they really could have come up with a better system than what they did. So I would imagine it went pretty well. But Shawn, did you hear from them yesterday?
Yeah, let me quote. It went super smoothly. This is from Mr. Dave Fields.
All right.
Plenty of
From the horse's mouth.
availability. I actually made a reservation for Friday today. And just to clarify, it's absolutely free. There's no cost to park there. They are just requiring reservations unless you're staying at the resort itself, if the Cliff Lodge or any of their other properties. So it's slick. And from what I understand, some of the weekends look, or a lot of the weekends look booked out. But I understand they will be opening up additional reservation spots throughout the winter.
How far in advance can you make them? Can you make them throughout the winter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's slick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's dynamic, you know, like Shawn said, that's where they can kind of shrink and expand so that they're able to bring in more people.
Okay. And from what I understand, that the mouth of the canyon may be closed to skiers coming up who don't have reservations, who are trying to get to Alta or to Snowbird when those parking lots are full. But if you do have a reservation, from what I understand, you will be allowed up. So I don't know. Don't think it's been tested yet. We'll find out. So.
We will find out.
Yeah. Two more questions for you guys, and then I think we'll wrap it up. But one is, I just did an article about how Anelise was talking about the smaller resorts. They, at least, and it seems like maybe the bigger ones as well, are looking at probably being pretty popular this season, that the people are really wanting to get out. Can you touch on, either of you, touch on how, is it going to be crowded up there, or what kind of a season are we looking for as far as crowds go?
Shawn, look into your mind.
You know what? I think it's a big unknown. I really think it's a big unknown. I believe a lot more locals will get up and out quite a bit. As far as destination skiers, that is the big TBD. Drive markets will obviously, I think, do quite well. And drive markets being as far away as Southern and Northern California, Denver and the like. As far as East Coast skiers, that's the big unknown at this point.
Right.
From what I understand, in an article I read in the Salt Lake Trib the other day, Park City Park City holiday reservations are doing quite well. Salt Lake, tell your friends and family to come on out and stay in the valley and Ski City and enjoy some wonderful skiing here on the greatest snow on earth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and as Anelise said, I think the small ones is a good place to go. If things are getting too crazy, or you're feeling like there's too much red tape or too much trying to figure out your trip before you go up to the Cottonwoods, try some of the smaller ones, because I don't know, being from Colorado, we used to ski those a lot, and it was a lot of fun just to go out there, and usually it was just you and your family. So that was
fun to go to those resorts. They're different, they're like a Cherry Peak isn't a Snowbird, and a Beaver Mountain isn't, a Brighton, but they're really fun for a lot of different reasons. And a lot of it is just kind of bringing it back to the basics of skiing and having some slower lifts and some smaller lodges and having that local cool little mountain feel. It's fun to skip around and check them all out. So
right. Yeah.
A little guy every now and then.
Yeah. May not get as much vertical in, but you actually may get more laps because fewer lift lines. So who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Last question is, what are your expectations for snow this winter? Are we going to have snow to go with all of this? We worry about all these things to get set up, but is there going to be snow?
I think
absolutely.
What's that, Anelise?
I said, I think we deserve it at this point.
Yes, absolutely. I think just these nice, dry, cold days or nights are allowing an excellent snowmaking base to be put down for Mother Nature to come and just grace us with feet upon feet upon feet of the greatest snow on earth. That's a call out to and big props to the snowmaking teams at all the resorts. But yeah, Mother Nature will cooperate soon, is my prediction.
Let's hope so.
I would agree with that. And we have some the greatest snow on earth isn't a made up thing. And part of the reason why that term was coined wasn't just for the consistency and the beauty of the powder, it's the consistency of the snowfall. If you look at the historical averages of our state, it's just beautiful how consistent that snowfall is. So we might be seeing it come a little later this year, but I'm on Shawn's boat. I know it's coming and it's going to be great.
Hopefully we don't have to wait till 2021 when all good things are going to come, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I hope not. But I'll wait for it
Exactly.
if I have to, and they'll just keep laying that nice snow making and get ready for it.
At least they're good at that. Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here and talking skiing with me. And now I'm going to be even more antsy to get out there, but I really appreciate it. And yeah, pray for snow.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks.
Thank you.